Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a couple of high-profile local cases involving the death penalty have reignited the debate on capital punishment. And we'll hear about national legislation that could end federal crackdowns on state-approved medical marijuana programs. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Arizona's jobless rate took another dip in March, falling 0.3%. That puts the state's unemployment rate at 6.2%. It's a move in the right direction, but it's still higher than the national average of 5.5%. State Department of Administration says Arizona gained 5,600 non-farm jobs last month, with over half of employment sectors gaining workers, most notably in leisure and hospitality, along with education and health services. Deborah Mielke was recently released from Arizona's death row after a court overturned her conviction in the murder of her son, and convicted murderer Jodi Arias escaped the death penalty after a lone juror held out against a death sentence. Those two cases have recharged arguments for and against capital punishment. Here now to discuss the death penalty from both sides are Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery and Dan Peitzmeier, the Death Penalty Alternatives for Arizona. That's Dan Peitzmeier. I want to get that correct. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Bill, we'll start with you. The death penalty, why is it good for Arizona? Why is it good for society?
Well, and those are the right questions to ask too, Ted, and that then justifies continued dialogue and conversations about it as well. But I would say that the death penalty continues to represent a just punishment for that narrow class of homicides that call for the most severe sanction that the state can impose. The two cases that are arousing the more current conversation, though, couldn't be different in kind, though. The Deborah Mielke case is such a gross tragedy when it comes to the justice system actually doing its job that it's a sui generis case. It's one where it is so unique that it really shouldn't be part of the debate. And the Arias case is one where we would have to acknowledge that our criminal justice system, as imperfect as it may be, is the best system that we have, and that she received her due process rights throughout. And if it was one juror that held out, it was one juror that held out. But she received the defense that anybody in her situation regarding the charges would have received, regardless of position of influence or wealth.
As far as the death penalty is concerned, why is this not good for society?
Well, I think it's a poor public policy, Ted. I think there's a number of factors that come into play. First and foremost is innocence. We've had 152 people exonerated in the last 30-some years. 152 people exonerated, approximately 1,407 executed. If you do the math on that, it looks like of the people who could have been executed, 10% were exonerated. If you had a chance of landing safely 9 out of 10 times when you flew, you wouldn't fly. So my point is that we are fallible human beings and we make mistakes. And I know of 3 people who have been innocent and yet executed. Judge Scalia said if there was any innocent people executed, we'd be screaming it from the roof. Well, I could scream, Cameron Todd Willingham out of Texas, or Juan DeLuna out of Texas, or most probably Troy Davis. I'm not aware of any here in Arizona, but innocence is one factor.
How do you respond to that factor?
Well, I would say the very system that resulted in the review that exonerated 152 people as a result of DNA that was utilized is proof that our system does work. And the very science that was used to identify those people being innocent is the very science that's being used to convict people today. So if it's good enough to say that someone's innocent, it's good enough to say that someone's guilty.
Respond, please.
I wouldn't argue to the DNA, but I don't believe all 152 of those exonerations are DNA based. I think some are jailhouse snitches and witness misidentifications. I think there's a number of different factors that come into play there.
If there is a remote chance that someone who is innocent is put to death, is it still worth keeping the death penalty?
Well, the question is, do we have a system in which we can have confidence that if someone were actually innocent, that we would be able to review it and identify that so the punishment wouldn't be carried out? And I think we do have that system. I think whether or not the 3 people that Mr. Peitzmeier identifies are actually innocent is still open to argument. Of the 152 people who were exonerated, that actually was the DNA. There's a larger number that the Innocence Project and the Death Penalty Information Center might claim were exonerated, but those are circumstances that Mr. Peitzmeier identifies where there may have been questions 30 years later about witness memory or lineup identifications or that sort of thing. I'll accept the 152, and it may even be 155. Point being that they were exonerated within the same criminal justice system, and again, the steps and processes used to exonerate them are what we're using in investigations and prosecutions today.
If the system works to that degree, does the system work?
The system does not work. Justice Blackmun stated that I am giving up on the experiment of the death penalty. Now, he made this statement, was it 1972 or 73 with Furman?
I think it was around that time frame, yeah.
And that's when we put a hiatus on capital punishment. After the states tweaked their laws, it was reinstated in 76. And it's to be done for the most heinous and egregious of crimes. At that time, they figured about 2% of the crimes would qualify. Right now, I believe Mr. Montgomery has 62 cases here in Maricopa County where they're seeking capital punishment. And I know for a fact, since I've been involved in this and participating in clemency hearings, and I see who we execute, we don't execute the worst of the worst. We execute the poorest of the worst. We educate the least educated of the worst. We execute those who have poor legal representation.
I don't accept that as a legitimate or objective criticism of the criminal justice system. Those may be factors that resulted in the underlying criminal conduct in the first place, but there certainly is no review of cases where we're looking at any of those circumstances as criteria whether to impose the death penalty. It is solely focused on the nature of the crime, the criminal history of those involved, and other objective metrics that allow us to look at the width and breadth of cases to determine which of those are cases we should seek capital punishment in. You know, we average about, over the last several years, about 300 murders each year in Maricopa County. And out of that each year, we're averaging about 20 cases in which we're seeking the death penalty. And even out of those, if there's additional information that arises over the course of that prosecution that calls into question that original decision, I'm open to reviewing those cases to determine if we should continue to pursue it. So ultimately, I believe that we are seeking capital punishment with the worst of the worst.
The idea, from the first question I asked the county attorney, said that this is a just punishment. Is he wrong?
Oh, I believe he is, and Bill and I have a common, we've discussed that on occasion. But I would like to point out one thing that I do think we agree on, and that is we want you in your position, you're going to fulfill the law. You're going to act to fill out the law. And I don't have any objections to following the law. I just want to change the law. You know, I don't think that we get much bang for our buck in the way of death penalty. I think it does more harm. It does very little good. It does a great deal more harm.
But in terms of just straight punishment, forget deterrent, that debate has come and gone, it seems like, or we can continue forever for that one. But it just in straight punishment and as a just response to punish people who commit these heinous crimes, why would the death penalty not make sense? 64% of Americans in a 2010 Gallup poll say it does make sense to them.
And I understand that. But 53% of the countries in the world say it doesn't make sense. You know, if you are known by the company you keep, which is something my mother always told me as a small boy, then I look at what company do we keep? You know, China, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. These are the countries that execute. We have been number 5 in executions in the past 4 years. And isn't that the same group of people that President Bush referred to as the axis of evil?
How do you respond to the fact that the most violent countries in the world seem to have a death penalty, and that countries with no death penalty seem to have fewer violent crimes.
Well, I think in trying to lump us in with those other countries, we don't execute people for political reasons. We don't execute people because they steal or they commit adultery either. So that's not a fair characterization to lump us in with those other countries. In terms of some of the other Western countries, first off, they've got their own issues with abortion and euthanasia. This is different than the United States as well. So I'm not going to look at them as my moral North Star. But in terms of the violence and what we do see in the United States, we're also a freer country, and we're much more heterogeneous than some of those other countries too. So if you look at the undergirding social context, it's different as well. And so the social norms and patterns of behavior are also unique for some of those countries. But to touch on the point that the death penalty causes greater harm, don't accept that characterization either. I think the fact that it's the state that does carry out that particular punishment instead of an environment in which people who feel they have been greatly wronged by the taking of a loved one feel that the only route for justice then is for them to take justice into their own hands is something that we're able to forestall by having society then and the state assume that responsibility and that right that an individual otherwise has to carry it out in a way that comports with due process.
Closure for the victims of loved ones. Please respond to that.
Well, there is no closure. I mean, there is no closure with execution or without execution. I mean, it's a very, very divisive issue. Parents of murdered children, national group, will not speak to it because even within the home, one parent may wish to spare the life of their child's murderer, and the other one would like to, as you said, take it into their own hands. Really, executing someone is revenge, and it's simply revenge, and it's a very sad thing, and it's detrimental to society. Bud Welch, have you ever met Bud? His daughter was blown up in the Oklahoma City bombing. He wanted to kill Timothy McVeigh. I mean, this was his precious child, and if he could have, he would have. And then he came to the realization that it was hate that took the lives of those 163 people in the Murrah building. And he didn't need to have that hate within him. So forgiveness is what we're about, and I think that's what we need to come to as a society. Now, Mr. Montgomery made a statement that we are fair and just in this country, and I think, well, to a degree, and our system of justice is better than anywhere else. But it is nevertheless arbitrary and capricious. What type of punishment you're going to receive is dependent on where you commit the crime.
Respond, please.
Well, and I want to start with a previous point that Mr. Peitzmeier made too, and that forgiveness for someone who murders is not mutually exclusive to then holding them accountable. And I've never argued, and I've never seen a family that's lost a loved one claim that they received closure from the death penalty, either the sentence or the imposition. And I don't think that that's something that anything we do on this earth can bring about true closure because of the degree of harm and hurt that results. And so I would have to say that the reason why that the death penalty is still an important part of the criminal justice system is that it still recognizes that a life was lost. A life was taken from that immediate family, and society in general has lost too, because we'll never benefit from the contributions that that person might have offered.
If I can interject, nor would we benefit from whatever contributions the killer may contribute if he is not executed.
Well, I would say though on that point, and we could get a degree of deterrence, and we certainly are able to demonstrate that there is a price to be paid for committing homicide that we do executions for by carrying out that punishment. Just a couple of years ago, we had 6 executions in Arizona, and I witnessed one of them myself. I felt I had an obligation to see what that punishment looked like if I was going to be not just a proponent, but an authorizer of seeking it. And in that year, every time that there is an execution, the facility there in Florence gets shut down. Those inmates know somebody's been executed. And for everybody who I believe was incarcerated during that year when that happened 6 times, that was a message that sunk in.
And the last point, because we got to get out of here, but I want to give you the last word on this.
I just want to go to cost. I think here in Arizona, costs are going to be very, very effective. We are in a terrible budget shortfall. And the money that was spent trying to kill Jodi Arias You know, 3.5, the last figure I heard from Maricopa County supervisors in the defense. Washington State has shown studies that prosecutorial costs are somewhere between 2.1 and 4.2.
135,000.
Well, when you talk that way, you're not talking you're talking about witnesses or travel costs.
Yeah,
you're not talking about opportunity costs. Juan Martinez could have been more effective doing other things than working that case for the past 5 years.
He did. In fact, he received a conviction in the Brian Holsey case, the murder of a Glendale police officer,
right,
who then received the death penalty too. So he was able to handle more than just one.
Right.
We got to stop it right there. We're running out of time. Great discussion. Good to have you both here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
we
you.
do appreciate it.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks.
And thanks.
The U.S. Senate is considering a bill that would make a number of changes to the nation's marijuana laws, including allowing states to run medical marijuana programs without federal interference. We'll hear more about the bill in a moment, but first, Arizona Horizon's Washington, D.C. intern Nihal Krishan talked to an Arizona veteran and a state medical marijuana researcher who were at the Capitol to rally for the bill.
Phoenix veteran Kevin Spence has struggled with chronic pain and post-traumatic stress disorder for years now.
I was strung out on morphine. I'd lost every friend I had. I lost every family member I had. I couldn't hold a job. I became a hermit. I stayed inside my house for years.
He said there's only one thing that truly alleviates his pain: medical marijuana.
I always had a tightness. You know, I was always real tight. You know, my neck, chest, all that stuff. You can just, yeah, it just so uncomfortable. But when I smoked marijuana, that went away.
That's why Spence joined dozens of other veterans in D.C. this week to lobby for marijuana research and acceptance. They were joined by Sue Sisley, an Arizona doctor, to support legislation like the CARES Act. It would permit Veteran Affairs doctors to prescribe medical marijuana for chronic conditions.
It's a Senate bill. The CARE bill has a section in it that would eliminate these two barriers to marijuana research that we discussed. So if the CARE bill passes, that means that suddenly it would open up for scientists the opportunity to finally embark on marijuana research and not be stymied all the time.
She said if the government just let her conduct her research, she could prove marijuana's worth.
If there are rigorous studies like ours allowed to be conducted, that's very dangerous because that might uncover data, objective data, that verifies that marijuana actually has merit as a medicine.
For veterans like Spence, this research can't happen soon enough. He wants medical marijuana to touch other veterans' lives in the same way it's impacted his.
My wife and daughter both said, I've got my husband back and I've got my dad back. And those two things meant more to me than anything in the world.
Here now to discuss the proposed law is Phoenix criminal defense attorney Bruce Fetter. It's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, this is the Compassionate Access Research Expansion Respect States Act here. In general, your thoughts?
My thoughts are, number one, you have conservative Republicans, moderate and liberal Democrats all sponsoring the same bill. There should be a great, there should be celebration in the country that maybe our Congress can actually get together and get something done. That would be the first reaction. But the bigger reaction is this is a plus for patients who can use marijuana and its byproducts to address some of their concerns, such as epilepsy and post-traumatic stress. It is hopefully a plus for the taxpayers, where we can have the states address what the Constitution wanted them to be, which are laboratories, to try out new ways of governing. And in this case, they're going to try to get the federal government to stop interfering in that experiment.
And basically to stop interfering by what? Amending the Controlled Substances Act?
They're going to do a couple of things. Number one, the law would, as I understand it at least, would prohibit the federal government from prosecuting people who are complying with state laws in those states that either have medical marijuana or legalization in place. And then number two, would change marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule II drug, which would free the medical community to start using marijuana in experiments to see if they can come up with cures for various types of ailments.
Indeed, and but marijuana would still technically remain illegal under federal law.
It would, but chemicals that are on Schedule 2 and 3, 4, and 5 are used or are viewed as having some type of medicinal use. And once they are in that category, it becomes much more of a regulatory response than an absolute prohibition.
And as far as the research is concerned, I guess some more licensed areas of growing marijuana would be opened up by this bill as well. So is that true?
Again, I don't understand it to open up any, to force any state to.
No, yeah, I didn't mean force, but I mean it would allow for, I think there's only one now in Mississippi, maybe a couple more would open up somewhere around the country.
You mean to cultivate?
Yes.
Well, there's cultivation going on, as I understand it, in the states that have allowed medical marijuana.
I think as far as research is concerned.
Right. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, the research aspect of this is big because right now it just seems like the federal government is in charge and you've got to jump through 47,000 hoops to get there.
And the medical providers and professors of medicine and the people that could be experimenting with marijuana for medicinal uses are afraid of being involved in that because they're afraid that their licensing and those kinds of things would be in jeopardy.
Will there still be a chilling effect, do you think?
Less of one,
Yeah.
until this gets processed out and people get some level of comfort.
And you mentioned, you kind of inferred the point where no one's forcing. This law still does not force. If you have no medical marijuana program, you still have no medical marijuana program.
True, but I think it takes away one of the arguments from the states that do not have medical marijuana and legalization, and that is that it's illegal under federal law, and that would take away that argument in the sense that the proponents of it could point to the fact that it's now a Schedule II drug. So, I mean, I think it might free up some of those states to go in that direction.
It sounds like easier access for veterans as well. Talk to us about that.
Again, because the veterans' hospitals are federally administered, the doctors in federal facilities are prohibited from prescribing medical marijuana. So if there's a veteran in Phoenix at the VA center here, unlike other people that can go to their doctors and get a prescription and get a medical marijuana card, the VA, the vets are prohibited from at least getting that from a doctor at the VA.
And it would be for only certain conditions, I would imagine?
Again, under Arizona state law, it's allowed for certain conditions.
Are you surprised that this has now, apparently it's locked up now in Judiciary Committee, and we don't know how locked up it is there in the Senate. Sure. But are you surprised that this has happened and it's gotten to this point?
I think a lot of people in this country have been concerned about gridlock in Washington, and when you see Rand Paul and Kirsten Gillibrand and Cory Booker on somewhat opposite extremes of the political spectrum getting together to sponsor this bill, and now more and more other House and Senate members also being co-sponsors, it gives one a little bit of hope that maybe we can actually work.
And this is because, as we've seen from legalization to medical marijuana, the tide seems, any reason from where you sit, do you know why that tide has turned? Is it just generational? Is it just time?
I'm sure it's I'm not sure. I assume it's generational. I think from a purely Republican standpoint, this is a libertarian issue of people being able to do what they want with their own bodies. It's also a cost issue. I think at some point, legislatures and the people that govern us look at the cost of prosecuting marijuana and maybe have come to their senses that maybe that's not the best expenditure of our tax dollars.
Well, we'll see where it goes. Again, it's kind of locked down in committee right now. It may not get out now, but it sounds as though, as we're saying, it just seems like the train is kind of on the tracks and it's going to be hard to stop.
I hope it goes all the way to the Pacific Ocean.
All right. It's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
And Friday on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the governor's signing of a bill that could jeopardize the health insurance of over 200,000 Arizonans. And we'll discuss the governor's granting of a $700,000 tax reprieve to a state helicopter company. That's Friday on the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.